You're listening to Skate of Thrones, your go-to podcast for dialed-in LA Kings coverage.
Welcome back to Skate of Thrones, everyone's favorite Los Angeles Kings podcast. As always, I'm your host, Casey Kasliner, here on Monday night as the Kings drop a 2-1 decision at the hands of the Seattle Kraken, snapping LA's 4-game winning streak, and it was only LA's 5th home loss in regulation and 9th total home loss of the season. And kind of a weird game overall, 2-1 final, low scoring. I mean, you have two really good goaltenders going at it, Joey Daccord for Seattle and Darcy Kemper for the Kings. We'll get into their play in a moment. And a weird game as well because there were only goals in the first period. The second and third periods did not see much offense taking place, at least not any on the scoreboard. And the Kings lose 2-1 despite scoring the first goal of the game, really at the beginning of the game as well, less than 2 minutes into the game. Well, so let's get into that goal. Quinton Byfield is a 20-goal scorer once again, scoring his 20th goal of the year off a really impressive play from him. I mean, honestly, one of the coolest goals I've seen in person, at least this year, as Kyle Burroughs, who slotted in today, we'll get into the reason why he slotted in today, he dumped in a play to the net, and Quinton Byfield was in a tussle a little bit with Shane Wright, being held down, and with one arm, he knocks the puck down with his stick, collects it in front. Joey Daccord at that point is a little bit out of position, and he puts it in to make it 1-0 Kings. And again, that was a good play from Burroughs. I mean, probably didn't intended to have it go that way, but Quinton Byfield cashed in, and the Kings take a 1-0 lead. And then for Seattle, toward the end of the period, around 17 minutes later, Matty Beniers scores on kind of a weird play, good screening out in front from the Seattle Kraken, but Jamie Alexiak gets the primary assist. He dumped it toward Matty Beniers and puts it in, and that tied the game up. Then less than a minute later, 54 seconds to be exact, Kraken take the lead and eventually score the game-winning goal as Brandon Montour ripped a pretty uncontested shot from the left side, and Gavrikov was kind of in the area but couldn't slow it down, and the wrist shot gave the Kraken a 2-1 lead. And despite how well Darcy Kemper played in this game, the Kings could not win this game. And the Kings were going into this game 1-1 this season against the Kraken. They'll obviously play in 8 days from now. But besides the point, I think one stat that really stands out to me is the fact that the Kings were blocked on shots 30 times by the Kraken, and the Kings only had 10 block shots themselves. Jim Hiller talked a little bit about that in the press conference, saying that it's easier to block a wrist shot than a slap shot, and the Kings really didn't have enough slap shots tonight, especially on the power play. And the power play was another struggle for the Kings. They were 0 for 3 on the power play. They also had a 5-on-3 earlier in the game, and they did not capitalize on it. And so, yeah, there were some other storylines in this game as well. Joel Edmondson and Drew Doughty were both scratched, probably just minor injuries, I think, day to day. And so that allowed Jacob Muvarari and Kyle Burroughs to slot in. I talked about Burroughs getting the primary assist on the Byfield goal. So the Kings went with a 12-6 lineup, and of course Daccord and Kemper in net. Darcy Kemper with a really impressive save. If you haven't seen that, go search up the video. He saved that with one hand himself, getting a stick on the puck. I mean, Jordan Spence talked about in the postgame, he thought it was a goal initially, but a really good save by Darcy Kemper, who of course has been great all season, but was really good in this game. And it's unfortunate for him that his team could not back things up, but really good play overall from Darcy Kemper, and I think the Kings can appreciate that despite the loss. And again, scoreboard watching a little bit, Edmonton Oilers lost to the Ducks tonight in regulation, so it would have been a really nice game for the Kings to win and gain some ground in the Pacific, but now it's narrowed in a little bit. Darcy Kemper also had to face a couple of breakaways that the Kings gave up and stopped all of them, and so that was really impressive to see as well. But the Kings just came out really slow in the second period. Darcy Kemper was kind of the only reason they were in the game at that point, and he had that really good save toward the end of the second period with about under 3 minutes left. And to open up the third, the Kings got a little bit more aggressive. They hit the post to open the third, and then it was announced that Adrian Kempe left the game because of personal reasons to start the third period. And a lot of people are speculating that's because of his wife being pregnant. And, of course, she might be in labor. The Kings without him inevitably are going to be at a disadvantage. I mean, he's their best scorer by far, I think. So Jeff Malott moves up to the first line, join Kuzmenko and Kopitar. That didn't really turn into much. We didn't see that good of production overall from the offense overall, lines 1 through 4. In this game, but that didn't really change much. And Jim Hiller talked about putting Malott up there and said, he's a guy who'd been scoring in the minors, so putting him up there made sense, and nothing transpired from that. Jordan Spence, really a highlight for him in this game, playing a lot of minutes tonight. Of course, he's a guy that hasn't seen that much playing time this season relative to some of the other guys, and he's young and he's a defenseman. He's still growing, but he had the most minutes by anybody on the team tonight. Played 24 minutes and 35 seconds. Not his career high, but certainly up there. And so, kind of something to think about. Jordan Spence maybe elevating a bit his game, trying to mature his game and take a bigger role. And Quentin Byfield talked about it. When he gets those big minutes, he's going to step up. And Jordan Spence said it himself in the press conference as well. Another interesting thing too, Darcy Kemper giving up those 2 goals in the first period. That was the first time this season he'd done that in the first period, and was great after that, of course. But it just wasn't enough for the Kings. It was also the 4th time this season the Kings allowed multiple goals in the first period at home. Only the 4th time. I mean, that's pretty crazy. It was also the first time since January 20th. And so, yeah, I mean, just not good play on special teams for the Kings tonight. Of course, they gave up a goal on the 4-on-4. They couldn't score on the power play 3 times, including the 5-on-3. I mean, overall, it's a frustrating loss, especially when you're coming off a win against your biggest rival, Edmonton. Of course, Edmonton loses tonight. I mean, it just would have been a really good game for the Kings to bounce back, cover some ground, especially with Vegas, continuing to win games as well and create some separation up top. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think it's a frustrating game. I think, the Kings don't lose much at home, so I think people maybe blow things out of proportion when they do. But I think this is a game where you definitely are frustrated. I mean, you don't have 2 of some of your best defensemen. I mean, I know Doughty's been a little bit slower lately, but Joel Edmondson has been on lately, and so not having both of them hurts. I mean, I don't know if necessarily not having Adrian Kempe in the third period changes things. He's obviously dealing with his personal stuff, but it is a 1-goal game, so that's valuable speculation to make. And so, yeah, I think that overall my main takeaway was after that first period, the Kings, and really after the Quentin Byfield goal, the Kings looked sleepy. They looked like they were just not having their own game. They didn't stick to their own game, and Quentin Byfield talked to that, the sort of importance of them sticking to their own game. And, I think being blocked that many times, especially on the power play, I mean, 30 block shots is a lot, especially considering, the Kings were able to put a lot of pucks on net tonight. Joey Decord did a really good job for Seattle, 28 of 29. Like I said, he made 4 saves on the power play. That's over a 960 save percentage overall. So very, very good. And Jim Hiller gave him credit. And yeah, I think Jim Hiller as well made an important point. He said he thought the Kings would get a goal in the third period. And I think that was sort of encouraging to see the Kings kind of come out with some fire in the third period. Of course, they didn't score. They do lose the game, but they have been a good third period team all year. They've also been a good first period team this year. And so to not score there, of course, hurts them. It obviously is a game they'd like to win. There's not many games left in the season. They're playing Anaheim next, who just beat Edmonton. I don't know if that necessarily means anything in terms of, when the Kings play the Ducks, but that'll be on Thursday. And yeah, that'll be the finale between those teams. The Kings will see Seattle again in Seattle, playing the Kraken on next Tuesday, like I said, 8 days from now. The Kraken, they have, valuable wins against the Kings this year. I wouldn't say they have the Kings number. They're 2-1 against them, but I think it's a tough game for the Kings. They're also going to play Edmonton on Monday. That could go down as the biggest game of the regular season, depending on what happens, especially in between now and then. I mean, the Kings will also play Colorado on Saturday, and then, of course, they'll finish off the year with Calgary. So there's points on the table for sure. But Darcy Kemper tonight, going back to him, he was 26 of 28, 929 save percentage, and had probably one of the saves of the year. Definitely go look it up if you haven't seen it yet. With one arm making, that play, extending his arm with the stick. And so definitely something that you should look at and something that he should be proud of, even though they do lose this game. Brant Clark, I thought, played well tonight. He got nearly 21 and a half minutes of play tonight and actually led the defenseman in power play minutes. And we've seen his ice time go up and down this year, but I thought he did a very good job. He actually did have a penalty himself, but other than that, not too bad. That was the only power play the Kings conceded. And Seattle did score on the 4-on-4, but they didn't have an extra man goal tonight. The Kraken played more physical. They played, pretty well, lights out, for the rest of the way. Joey Decord, they blocked shots. They stopped power plays. I mean, it's a good win for the Kraken. I think it's very encouraging. Of course, they're not going to play for anything important this year. The Kings are. So it would have been an important win for the Kings. It's only also their 9th loss at home of the year, 5th in regulation. I mean, it just goes to show how impressive it's been when they have home losses. It just kind of reflects, how good they really are. And so that moves the Kings 5 points back of Vegas. Vegas at 102, Kings at 97. Edmonton, 93 points total, 4 points back of the Kings. If Edmonton won tonight, it would have been a lot closer. If the Kings won tonight, they would have been able to create some more separation, and they couldn't do so. So probably not a win that necessarily will, affect the course of the season, but it could. I mean, depending on what happens in these next 5 games or so. And so, yeah, tough game for the Kings. They lose 2-1. The Kraken just had their number in this game, and they did their job. Joey Daccord did a great job. A couple of nice goals from the Kraken, scoring quickly, ending the period on a high note, kind of shutting the Kings down. And I think for LA, having a guy like Darcy Kemper and Jordan Spence in particular talked about this in the press conference, gives them a chance to win night in and night out. But they weren't playing their game early on. Jordan Spence said, they were trying to chase. They were playing desperate. And that's not a successful way to play. You lose a couple of guys, not playing tonight. That hurts, but you still have to stick to your game. And so there's not a huge excuse you can make for that. But other than that, I think the Kings will definitely want to bounce back. They're playing an Anaheim team that, has very good goaltending, just like Seattle. So we'll definitely see what happens. But the Kings are unable to defeat the Seattle Kraken. The Kraken moved to 2-1-0 against the Kings this year. And the Kings will have a chance to even up the season series next week, playing the Kraken one more time at Climate Pledge Arena. And yeah, definitely an interesting game. Adrian Kempe will likely be back. We have no word officially yet on what the reason was for his absence, but there's plenty of speculation out there. So that's something to keep your eyes on. But that'll just about do things. Kings lose 2-1. Thanks again for tuning in to Skate of Thrones. Kings Kraken finishing here tonight at Crypto. Definitely was a gritty game, physical game. So let me know your thoughts on this game. As always, I'm your host, Casey Kasliner, thanking you for tuning in to Skate of Thrones. I'll see you in the next one. Have a good one.